Good morning, seventh graders. Happy Thursday. I just want to start first by talking about how awesome your poems were yesterday. I really had so much fun reading them. Just so much creativity and so many good ideas, and I'm really proud of you guys. You guys did a really awesome job. That can be one of the hardest ones to write. So, really awesome job. I'm excited to keep it up with you. Today we're gonna do some more with poetry. So yesterday you and the day before on Tuesday you were working with those Villanelle poems. Today we're gonna kind of shift gears. We're gonna start looking at repetition, and then in turn we're gonna look at a poem that's called a free verse. So today you're gonna do a little bit of analyzing your poetry packet, and then tomorrow you're gonna write your own free verse. Um, so that's kind of our plan. So I can recognize that repetition in a poem can be a symbol for something and may connect to a bigger issue. So guys, this is something that we have talked about. Right, with with repetition in our picture books, being related to different themes, and so you're going to use that today the same way in poetry. So what is repetition? Just a quick reminder: it's the action of repeating something that's already been said or written. Most of you know this. I wanted to just say it just in case. So why might a poet use repetition in their poems? I want you to think about that for a minute, right? Why might a poet do that? Right? What are some of the reasons? So, to start, repetition is one of the most common literary moves in poetry. So, that means that a lot of poets use repetition. Um, and I think you guys have seen this, and we've seen it together in picture books, but we've talked about that authors always do things on purpose, right? Nothing's ever a mistake. So if you're choosing to repeat something, it typically means something, right? There's a reason that it's repeated. So repetition can be a symbol for something, right? If you're seeing something that's coming up again and again, it may be a symbol for something. So the thing that is repeated may be important to the poet, or it may bother the poet and intrigue them. There's kind of a lot of options for this, but the main thing that I want you to take away from this is that when there is repetition, typically it means that something important is happening, right? They chose to repeat that for a reason, and that's kind of what we're going to take a look at today. So some questions to ask yourself as you read poetry and are looking for repetition. Why is there repetition? And then does it connect to a bigger issue in the poem? Right, so this is kind of what I was talking about, thinking about the big idea. What is the repetition? How does it connect to a bigger world issue or issue that the poet is having? So the poem that we're going to use today as an example is a free verse poem. I'm going to show you it in just a minute. A free verse poem means, so we did one yesterday that was like really structured, right? You had 19 lines, they had to be rhyming, it had to be five tercets and a quatrain, right? Like there was a lot of structure. Free verse poems means there's no pattern, there's no rhyme or rhythm in the poem, right? So there's no ABAB pattern, um, but it is still an artistic expression, right? You're still telling a story in those stanzas, um, but it doesn't necessarily follow any sort of pattern. So for some kids, these are really easy to write. For other kids, they're a little tricky to write. And I'll kind of talk to you about that tomorrow when you guys go to write your own poem. So the free verse that I chose was called Thrill Ride. So I'm just going to start by reading it together. It says, up, up, click, click. Wind blows sharp in my ears. My heart jumps, skips. It's up higher. It's up higher. It's up the highest. Hands grasp at the clouds, then forever pause, still, waiting. Finally, whoosh, steep drop, down, down, down. So the first thing that I did was I marked up what I saw repeating. So I saw up, up in the beginning repeating, click, click. I kind of thought that these could maybe go together. You could almost highlight these the same color, but I did do them separately because even though it's two different repeating words, it's a chunk of repeating um, information. It's up higher, it's up the highest, so that that upward is kind of what I wanted to recognize there in the repetition. They continue to say it's up, it's up, it's up, it's up. And then finally at the end, I highlighted this down, 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 repeating this word down. So when I thought about, so look, I looked at the title and it's called Thrill Ride. So my mind immediately goes to a roller coaster, right? Like this is telling the story of someone that is riding a roller coaster. They're going up, up, they're whooshing, they're sitting at the top, they're whooshing, and then they're going down, right? So why did they use repetition? Sorry, excuse me. So I said, I believe that there's repetition because these short words that are repeated tell us how to feel. The poet repeats them to show how we are feeling throughout the poem. At the beginning, you're excited, you're going up, up. He wants to build that feeling of excitement, so he uses repetition. Then at the end, you're calming down, right? You're going down, down, down. So again, he's repeating those words to kind of show that's how you're feeling. You're coming down off of the high, right? So I really think, my main idea was that these words were repeated so that we know how to feel throughout the poem. He really wanted to drive home some emotion. Does it connect to a bigger issue in the poem? I think the poet wrote about a roller coaster and used repetition to drive home our emotions because this poem could be about the roller coaster. I'm sorry, let me restart. I think the poet wrote about a roller coaster and used repetition to drive home our emotions because this poem could be about the roller coaster of life. It could be about how we feel on different days and how we deal with those feelings and emotions. So while, I think on the surface, this is a poem about a roller coaster, I think also it could be about our lives, right? I think that could maybe be the bigger issue is that we feel these things, these words that are repeated. We feel up and then we feel down, then we feel up and then we feel down. We feel those kind of like in the roller coaster of life. So I thought that that was what the bigger issue might be. And guys, again, both of these things, the and two questions I just answered, those are my opinions. So it doesn't mean that they are right, doesn't mean that they're wrong, right? It just means this is what I think about this poem. So, I'm sorry, guys. It's early in the morning. I'm sleepy. Your task for today is to go to your poetry packet. There is not going to be a task 23 posted. I want you to go to your poetry packet. Okay. And in your poetry packet, I want you to find a poem that has repetition. Okay. I'll put the directions at the bottom um, of this. So number one is you need to find a poem. I'm going to do it to save your time. I will put directions down there so that you know what to do, but I'll just tell you them right now. So you need to find a poem in your poetry packet that has repetition. Guys, almost all of them do. It doesn't have to be a free verse poem. I just used this to kind of talk about repetition and free verse. It does not have to be a free verse poem. It can just be a poem that has repetition. So I want you to find a poem that has some repetition, and in this side right here, I want you to answer those two questions that I posted. Okay? Why is there repetition and does it connect to a bigger issue in the poem? Okay, so I want you to answer those two questions for one poem that has repetition. Okay. Um, do not turn this in when you're finished, just because we're going to keep coming back to your poetry packet, and I don't want you to turn it in and not be able to edit it. So that is your task for the day. I will be on from 9 to 10 and from 12:30 to 1:30. Please let me know if you have questions, and I'd be happy to help you out. Good luck, guys. You're going to do great.